Good morning. Today is Sunday, June 9th, 2024. Today is our recording of Tanya, Practical Tanya for the beginners, so to speak, number 97. And today we're going to ask the question, what should Tanya advise to Bennett, Naftali Bennett, the former Prime Minister of Israel, in his interviews that he gives to BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, and similar? What would Tanya advise? Well, we have studied Tanya 96 session, 10 minutes every morning. This is the 3 volumes. You can see one is much thicker, 53 chapters, and the other two are relatively small, 12 chapters. The first volume was talking about anatomy and physiology of Tanya, specifically physiology of Tanya, how does the divine light comes to this world. And then the second small volume goes to anatomy of Tanya, essentially how specifically it happens. It discusses, so far we learned how God created a man in his image. It's a philosophically difficult concept to understand, but Tanya makes it very clear to exactly what it means. So today we talk about what would Tanya advise today. Tanya, Snell Zalman of Liadi came up with Tanya's writings 250 years ago or so. Torah was given to the Jewish people over 3,300 years ago. So we are at 3,300 years ago. Jewish tradition goes back that many years. Usually, when now, especially after October 7th, 2023, situations in Israel, in Gaza, was attacked by Hamas on Israel, on Jewish people, followed by essentially world attacking, many in the world attacking Jews that have nothing to do with that. Some Jewish community, some Jewish guy walking in, South Dakota, perhaps, nothing to do, probably doesn't even feel Jewish. He's Jewish technically, but he feels nothing affiliated with Jews. But somebody can see him, his nose a little bit crooked, and he, dirty Jew, what are you doing here in America? So that hatred is very difficult to explain just because of conflict between Israelis and Hamas, Israelis, Palestinians, land dispute, whatnot. It's difficult to explain that why would a Jew in remote community in America is hated by anti-Semites there. But anyway, what the usual interview, when say BBC, CNN, Jazeera has interview, it's not interview as I used to remember. You used to remember that the interviewer wants to really understand that CNN used to be, BBC used to be reputable sources that would go to a conflict. If it's a war in Africa somewhere, they will go there, they'll see what's going on, they'll see what's both sides. Now they sit in air-conditioned office, really not knowing anything about conflict, and basically have the today's social agenda to essentially already know the answer. And an interview, really not an interview to find information, to discuss it and to debate, but just have a talking point. If you understand, if you see sometimes the interviewer, CNN interviewer or BBC guy will be sitting and asking Naftali Bennett questions, he's looking at his piece of paper and he asks the first question, the 10 pre-programmed question. He asks the first question, and Bennett explaining, well, Jewish people have a right to defend themselves. We've been attacked, and we all want to live in peace with Arabs. We don't. And he finished the answer, and he just simply, looking at his paper, and then, okay, next question. But don't you understand the world is international community and the international law and international court and then Bennett explains that, or other spokesman, the Jewish spokesman explained that, and the guy or the gal looking at his paper, well, next question. So it's not an interview, it's not a discussion. So for 20 minutes of this interview, Bennett is trying to very nicely and strongly present Jewish view, Jewish position, saying we're a democratic state, we're the only democratic state, we're a big ally of America, we're a big ally of the free world, but we want to live in peace with the world, with our neighbors, with our environment, with the whole world. But interviewer doesn't care for that. One time, Bennett explained in 3 minutes a history of Israel in 3 minutes. I saw the YouTube interview. I liked it in 3 minutes. It says how Israel came from Egypt, how he came to the land of Canaan, how the kingdom of King David kingdom, how the exile happened, so the entire history, how we exiled from Israel, that Romans started to call Palestina, because the name of the early invaders to the Canaanites caused by descendants of Ham, not descendants of Shem, not even Arabs, not the Jews, other descendants. So Bennett explained all that in 3 minutes. But now it takes him 20 minutes and collectively minutes to explain, to beg the world for the understanding, to have a pity and sympathy that the world will understand. And the more we try to understand, the more we try to explain it, the more world despises and hates it and says, it doesn't work. Why? You ask why? Why is the world so insensitive that no matter what you say, the world just goes 1 year, goes another one, and well, we're going to vote in the United Nations to condemn you again. So when thousands and hundreds of thousands, millions are killed and massacred, displaced all over Africa, in China, in Tibet, in Syria, what the world is doing, what the United Nations, how many resolutions United Nations passed against atrocities going today in Africa, in Tibet. But Israel, which there's roughly 15 million Jews in the world, like roughly half of them in Israel, and another half America and Europe a little bit. And that is like 1/10 or 100% of the population of 8-10 billion people in the world. That particular tiny land, which is less the size of New Jersey, that's where a problem started. If only that problem disappeared from a standpoint of Iran, for example, then everything else will be fine. Then the problems in Africa will go away. All the corruption in China, the war between Russia and Ukraine will disappear. The brotherhood and love will come to the world. That will happen only if it's 15 million people of Jewish people will disappear. That's the world wants to believe. That is why you have demonstrations start to happen November 8th, not even before Israel had a chance to respond at all. Demonstration in Harvard, in Yale, in University of Pennsylvania, the kids agitated by the professional agitators started to hold Hamas as a brave militant resistance group against the wicked Jews. So why that happened? Is the world so naive? If the people are sensitized and desensitized so much that the world finds it's okay? Well, because the Tanya, when we are students of Tanya, saying that Tanya teaches us that Jews have a special mission. We don't have the same mission as the world does. Jews, we have 3,500 years tradition. And Tanya explains fundamentally that there is a light and darkness. And when Abraham Avinu, from which Jews and Arabs both come, when Abraham Avinu gave us the mission, he said, you are chosen people. Jews became chosen people. We're separated from the rest of the people, not to become, as Tanya teaches, monks sitting in a mountain praying to God nonstop, but to become not following the multitude to do evil. As Torah says, do not follow the multitude. You're small minorities right now, but don't follow multitude to do evil. Don't pay attention, disregard what the world is doing. Your mission is to hold on the light against the darkness. That's a Tanya reflecting the Kabbalistic views, the Zohar views, the light against darkness. A little bit of a light can disperse darkness, but darkness is strong if the light is not having the energy to disperse it. That is why the conflict between Israel and Hamas, or Israel and Palestinians, which is going on right now, is really not a conflict about the land. It's not a conflict between Arabs and Jews, not a conflict between the Jews and Palestinians. It's a conflict about the light and darkness. It's a bigger picture conflict. That is why Harvard, Yale, University of Pennsylvania demonstrate, because this is why even among the Jews, the very small portion of the Jewish apostates, the self-hating Jews like Bernie Sanders, would really want to beat himself in the chest to show to the world how really impartial, how neutral and fair he is to everybody. even to his own Jewish people, he is still critical about Jewish people, how dishonest we are, how apartheid we are, in his opinion, how we don't need any help from people like Bernie Sanders. That is why that hatred comes in, even for that, fortunately, minority of Jewish people, but it does exist. And usually most of those type of Jews are more anti-Semitic actually than even non-Jewish anti-Semite. So why is the world is so unified against Israel? Because forces of darkness cannot stand the light. The world knows very well why it hates Israel. When we say why the world doesn't do it, why the world does it, the world knows very well, because our mission is not to follow the multitude to do evil, and the multitude cannot stand it. It's a small fraction of humanity. 0.1% is telling the world you're wrong. That painting yourself blue and walking around the streets half naked and having the marriage license at issues to 2 guys and 3 girls, 2 dogs, a cat and a cow and a chair to issue the marriage license, the Judaism cannot approve that as appropriate. The world cannot stand it. How can you not approve? And the world doesn't say that's our right way and you're wrong. No, the world wants something a little bit more fine. He says, if you practice your Judaism, it's fine. And if we're practicing marrying the chair and the rabbit, and if a woman is actually born a man, and the man is actually a woman, and if this child is born and thinks it's a cat that wants to meow, so give him some tuna fish and milk, because he's really a cow. Judaism doesn't stand for that. I have to say that Islam doesn't stand for that either. Fortunately, we have something in common. For that matter, Hinduism and Buddhism, Christianity, other religions don't stand for that either. Unfortunately, the majority of the world is silent, even though it understands this, what we are saying here, but the world is silent. And by silence, like in Germany, in Nazi Germany, Hitler had only 300 people in his party, but look what it led to, because most of the Germans just were silent. Okay, so the world now has essentially a new religion, and this is what darkness like. The new religions of everything goes. Let's call it the new everything goes. That religion also has a constitution of the new religion. This constitution is a collection of everything that goes against decency and Torah values, including the Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity. All these religions are enough in the view of the new world religion. Some people call it extreme left, but that is, the religion fundamentally is opium for the people, as Marx said, and that is what new, novel, woke culture of today really tries to propagate. But Jewish values are not a collection of the ruthless idea of collective stupidity. That is not, or creative stupidity. That is not what Judaism stands for. Jewish values, 3,500 years value, are clear and current. And these values are subject to time. They're just as relevant today as they were 3,500 years ago. And the world cannot stand it. How come you Jews don't see the light of today? Why don't you understand that when the man is born, really are the woman? Isn't that so clear? Why can't we teach it to our children in school? If the child at 8 years old wants to cut his penis off and become the girl, that's a right the child has. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, you name it, do not stand for that. Unfortunately, obviously, there is a differences between Islam and Judaism, but that's on a little bit of a different level. And it's not as dramatically different if you think about it as a woke culture of the world today and the Judaism in general. So we have a lot more in common with the Muslims. Jews have a lot in common. That's our brethren, that's our blood, and we should be able to get along. And the reason we don't get along, because the extremism. So then you would say, well, if Jews are supposed to go by the Torah, why Jews don't follow by the Torah? Many Jews don't follow. Why the world will say, well, listen, you're talking about Jews supposed to go by the Torah, Shabbat, kosher. I see a lot of Jews in a Tel Aviv beach on Shabbat, eating pork, and they go to the festivals on a big holiday. on Shabbat, and they're singing songs, nice, good songs, but on Shabbat, also half-naked, doing drugs and painting themselves blue with a multicolored flags waving around. That's what Jews do. So the world says, that's what you do. Who are you to preach us? Who are you to preach us moral values if you do the same thing? And the Jews, those Jews who do it, says, well, we just want to be like the rest of the world. We want to be loved. We want to be accepted. The world is doing this. We want to do some of that too. I always think that America has a lot of good things and some not so good things. Many times, unfortunately, in Israel, people take what's not so good in America and reject what is good in America. Think about that. So that's why our desire to blend in, as Bernie Sanders did, marrying non-Jewish lady and having non-Jewish children, he's now a third and has an audacity to teach Israel how to conduct the war, how to defend itself. But that is his choice, and he will be judged. He will be judged by God, no matter what he thinks. To him, of course, in his view, there's no such a thing as God. It is Bernie Sanders' constitutions of the non-uniformity to the current values of religion, and therefore he is right. He is absolutely right in his heart. He knows how right he is, and he can tell everybody else how wrong they are. Very same Jews. But the bulk of the Jews that we just talked about, the bulk of the Jews are decent, peaceful people. And even those Jews that I mentioned go on Shabbat on the Tel Aviv beach or go to the festival on Shabbat, they don't do it. 99.9% of them don't do it out of spite. There's some Jews, very few, that despite the fact that it's a big holiday, I'll still run the bicycle and the car right in front of you to stick it on your face how much I despise the Torah, despise religion, despise Judaism. But those are very few and very small minority. Majority of them that go to Tel Aviv beach on Shabbat or do work or change spark plugs on their car, do it just because they say, listen, we're Jews, we love our bar mitzvah, we love our heritage, we love Hatikva, we'll love our religious brethren. My brother is religious. My brother, I love to visit his home on Shabbat. We have a great time. I go to his home on Shabbat, and in the afternoon I go into the beach. That's okay. I only have 1 day a week. I work all 6 days. I need to get a break. So they do it from this kind of good reason, so to speak. And yet the world will point a finger and shows that is what display. That's what cameras of the correspondents will show. Tel Aviv beach, and that's in Tel Aviv in Israel. That's how Jews are. That's not how the Jews are. But that impression we give sometimes with all the best intentions. I don't blame the Jews for going there. I have to choose it what's carefully, blaming or not blaming. I'm not a judge of anybody. People do what they can. They respond to their own conscience, to their own God. But you have to think about impression. What impression do you give to those who hate you? That is fuel the fire of those anti-Semites to use to come to the conclusion that you don't have any moral values. What are you talking about, Torah? You don't follow the Torah anyway. You're just like us. And because you don't approve our opinions, you have no moral standing to say that how wrong we are, no matter what we do. So when we deviate from our mission, we become weak and vulnerable. And that follows our deviation from Torah. You will say, but it's so difficult to go with Torah. So it's so constrictive. I have to dress a certain way. I have to pray so many times a week. It's not really true. It's not so difficult. You lose your freedom of choice when you go on Shabbat on a festival and paint yourself blue and green with a color of multicolors, or strip yourself naked and go to a parade marching to show your pride in the fact that you are not a man but a woman, or you actually mount and you actually express yourself psychologically as a cat, and you go to a psychiatrist who is half dog and half chair. And that's normal. So the downfall of society is initially when people deviate from the rule of law, from a rule of Torah, initially, people kind of ashamed of that. That's a story of the Jew that came to America. Initial generation of the immigrants in early 1900s was kind of a little bit uncomfortable that they had to blend to American reality. Then it became the norm. And then later on, it became not being normal, quote unquote, like Americans. if my father or grandfather comes in dressed like this with the tefillin and the talis, well, don't come to the party because I'm kind of embarrassed. Dad, can you stay home? That became the norm of today's, the secular society, the constitution of a new religion of a wokeism, I call it collectively. The values that stand all against Torah, that's a religion of the darkness. The darkness has its religion, and that is expression of it. And that's what Tanya, that we're learning 97 lesson, 97 session today, 10 minutes every morning. So, perception. The message to us, therefore, to the Jews is Moses, our teacher Moses, wasn't allowed to come to Israel for the minor thing. He was supposed to speak to the rock, and he hit the rock with the rock. What's a big deal? Well, you're Jews. Moses, you're leader of Jewish people. That minor thing in the eyes of a multitude of people that follow you, 3 million people roughly were leaving Israel, living from Egypt. Not 10, initially 10 people, 10 million people, Jews live in Israel, 7 perished because they don't want to leave. 3 million left, and they looked at Moses. When Moses didn't follow what God told him, they said, well, he's kind of, I don't know, sin. Minor thing. For you and me, it will be nothing. We'll go to Israel, no problem. But for Moses, same thing for Jewish people. Our mission is such. God said, it says, don't follow the multitude, but it also says in Shema, our central place, Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. In the end of Shema, it says, I let you out of Egypt in order to be your God. So I didn't lead you from Egypt. I didn't save you from slavery. I didn't emancipate you in a religious sense from slavery just to become like everybody else. Maybe you want to go to Canada, but I took you to Canaan. The reason, because to be your God, to follow the Torah, I am not, God says, against sports. I'm not against work. I'm not against playing basketball. I'm going to the gym and exercising. I'm not against having a party and barbecue. You can live your normal life like everybody else, but you have to know your priority. You have to know that on Shabbat, it is Shabbat, that the kosher is kosher, that you don't eat pork. You have to have a certain very simple, very, very clear rules, which are not very binding, but actually more liberating. And you follow these rules, the rest of the world, 6 days out of 7, you can work and you can create, you can build parks, malls, theaters if you want, but do that in a way that consistent with the Torah. And Torah says, what do I want to you? Just respect God. And when you lose respect for God, nations of the world, 10 billion people of the world begin not to respect you. And that is a message of October 7th to us. You say, how do I know the message? I don't know the message of God, but it seems very likely that's a message for us Jews. We'll love and celebrate the time when our hostages are rescued. Today was a day on Shabbat, yesterday on Shabbat, 4 hostages, thank God, were rescued by special forces. Do we criticize them working on Shabbat doing? No. Life trumps everything. They came in, one guy lost his life. On the way back, the soldiers guarded the hostages with their bodies to save them. Entire Israel loves it. Jewish, non-Jews who are living in Israel, abiding by Noahic 7 laws, religious, secular, semi-religious, semi-secular. We all love this because we feel inside of them. I wonder if Bernie Sanders feel anything of that. I have a feeling that he may, but he's probably so small, the spark in him, that it's almost disappeared. I don't think it disappeared completely. It's impossible to completely extinguish the spark of Jewishness or somebody who has a last name Levin, which is from a Levite. I don't think anybody has a Jewish name or Jewish identity, even completely apostate, completely denounce everything that has to do with religion, that hostage is being rescued. The 4 Jewish kids rescued, no matter what they did on the festival, no matter what they did on Shabbat or didn't do on Shabbat, no matter what they did, they rescued. And we, religious, non-religious, all Jews in the world, breathe what Tanya refers to pre-thought process. We feel it. all connected as a Jewish souls. We connected and we feel it and we rejoice. The greater or the lesser degree, but we rejoice. So, what would we tell to the Jews now? The two messages: one to the Jews, October 7th, and one to the non-Jews. Do not follow majority. You're a small minority. God meant it to be small. Don't think, how come the Swedish or Norwegians and Spanish don't like me? They're not supposed to. They will like you if you follow the Torah. And then the light, we're not proselytizing. We don't want to make everybody Jews. We don't want to make everybody Muslims. We don't force anybody to convert. We just want to live as Jews and by examples to show to the world that's the right way to do. You want to be a Christian? Be a good Christian. You want to be Muslim? Be a good, peaceful Muslim. If you want to be Hindu, fine. If you're a yoga, can float in the air, float all you want. But that's part of your humanity. Number two, Shema Israel, I mentioned, tell us, I took you out of Egypt, God says, in order to be your God. Democracy. We all say this is a democratic country. Democracy, it's fine. But the Torah comes first. Torah trumps democracy. Torah and democracy can coexist. You can be a democratic, peaceful country, but you can still have a Torah as your guide. And in that sense, you can say, hey, maybe conflict. Is a Torah society or democratic society? You can have both. You can have democratic society, peaceful, good, law-abiding society, but yet Torah, it becomes your constitution. Right now, Israel doesn't have a constitution. We have a Declaration of Independence, but we don't have a constitution. When you think about it, the reason the government had the trouble to come up with constitution because no matter how they Ben Gurion and Golda Meir, all the wonderful people, secular mostly, how they try to get constitution, come up with it, because how are you going to trump Torah? They come with a constitution piece of the paper and they say it doesn't look like Torah, so it can come. Torah is our constitution. We say, blessed are those who bless you, and cursed be those who curse you. What happens to those who curse us now, no matter how much they try, is it will come back to them eventually. All these dark forces gathering against the light will be defeated by the light. By the way, to the credit to the Hamas, extreme of the Muslims, of Islam, they have an agenda. They have a strong beliefs. They are not liberators of the land, because if they were, they want a fairness of the land. They will say, okay, this portion is for you, for Jews, this is for us. Let's figure it out. Let's trade a lot for Haifa, Amman for Cairo, Cairo for Tel Aviv, or whatever. You put everything in the mix and say, okay, you take this, we can take, like Abraham and Lot did, you go take this. It could be resolved all in 15 minutes conversation. It's more than that. And the reason that, because I don't think personally, it will be the religious Jews, the Jews listen to me, you might surprise hearing me. I don't think Hamas does it just for the sheer desire to wipe Jews out because they took the land. Hamas truly believes that Islam is the right religion and all other religions are wrong. And by Jews not agreeing to that, bugs them. You know, there was a Catch-22 book written Catch-22. If you know, when one of the officers wants to be discharged from the army, and the only way to discharge the army is to agree that you couldn't get out of the army, because only insane people would be in the army in those days and during the Second World War. So if you are sane, you don't be in the war. But if you don't be in the war, that means, so it's a complex of insanity. So they tell him, we can let you out. You have to do only one thing. Sign here. What do you sign? That you like us. He couldn't do that. So the Jews cannot sign that Judaism is wrong. They couldn't sign to agree that the Jews are not bringing the light to the world. They couldn't sign. They couldn't say the wokeism is okay. They couldn't say that painting yourself blue and go on a parade half naked is okay. And going to the beach on Shabbat, Jews also couldn't say it's not as bad as painting yourself blue, but it's also couldn't say it's a violation of Shabbos. It's against our constitution, against our Torah. I can't tell you what to do, but I can't tell you it's good. And that bugs the person. It bugs you not because just I don't want you to be, at least wokeism doesn't say we want you all to be like us. Wokeism say, no, you want to be like Jews? That's fine. I agree that it's okay to be like us. Judaism cannot do that, cannot agree that it's appropriate to eat pork half naked on Shabbat and then going on the marches. That is not Judaism belief. So The message is, but I believe that majority of Islam, even the Hamasniks, they do that, just haven't matured to the point to understand that we have a lot more in common with the Jews. And if we find a way that decency, proper addressing, shniyot, it's called in Judaism, the respect for the parents, the respect for tradition, the wonderful cooking, the wonderful kitchen we both share, Arabs and Jews together, unites so much in us. The disagreement we have is such a minor, childish issue that could have been resolved and will be resolved, Mizrat Hashem, please God, inshallah, soon. And I think even Hamas will eventually understand it. Unfortunately, until it gets to this point, we have a lot of troubles and people die on both sides. Now, the message, that's message to the Jews. I hope you take this message. If you go to do a cookout barbecue on the Tel Aviv next Shabbat, I can't tell you anything, but I cannot approve of that. And I know you'll come to my granddaughter's bat mitzvah and grandson bar mitzvah still and love it and enjoy it. And when you come to the mall with a tattoo in your hand, you still touch mezuzah and kiss it because you know that's what the Jews do. I know you'll do that. But I still think that until we're fully on Shabbat, if you don't go to the synagogue, you don't spend time with the family, go for a walk in the park, nice and quiet, one day a week, learn the Torah, open the Torah, read something a little bit, do a little prayer, do a little tehillim, do something that connects you further with Judaism, not just nominally because you happen to live in Israel, and because of that, you're already holy. No, you're not. You're holy. This is the beginning, but you have to make the next step. As Tanya said, you bring yourself up with the prayers to the upper worlds, and then your job is to bring the light down. The light will come down into the darkness to illuminate it with the light. That's your mission. That is your mission. Whether you're religious or non-religious, or anything in between. Whether you're Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, or whatever, that is your mission when you think about it. To get along with the fellow human beings, to bring the light to the darkness, not to force it to somebody else's throat, but to accept another person. To accept the fact that there is a uniformity. Islam takes its roots from Judaism. Christianity takes its roots from Judaism. We have so much in common. So that is a message to the world as well. And as far as God is concerned, looking at this, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what God says. Some people say, I would like to see the sign, like sky's open, and God brings his hand down and waves his hand and says, don't do it, or take somebody and just, God says, do I really have to go that extent to show to you my face? You already see my face. You see the results that I do. You see what happened in Spain, 1492, when Jews trying to blend in the Spanish culture were expelled. And now Spain today is following the suit to denounce Israel, right to defend itself and his people. Norway, from all places, somewhere in the northern pole, almost northern pole, has audacity to tell Israel how to defend itself. When was Norway, Vikings, exposed to maybe Russians 100 years ago, tried to invade Norway, going to the snows of the Denmark, trying to get to this country of peaceful Norwegians? What made them become anti-Semitic country to denounce Israel today? What made them to do? Maybe if you go to Iceland and Norway, maybe they're walking around half naked, supposed to be socially adjustable. You have children with your wife, and then you go spend Wednesday with another girlfriend, and then with two more girlfriends, you spend it on Tuesday. That's normal. Who is to criticize? Well, in that culture, obviously the Jewish religion doesn't fit into this norm. And we oftentimes scratch our heads. We're Jews thinking, well, maybe they're right. Maybe it's a modern world. We should join the modern world, go to the mall, do more shopping. What about Torah? That's for old people. It's not. So walking around the Holy Land, holy streets of Jerusalem, being half naked, painting himself blue, is not something that God can approve. And that is why, in the end of the day, that non-Jews, that those protests, those that from a river to the sea, but they don't know if that's Volga or Amman or Tibet, if they don't know exactly what it is, they're brainwashed, and they're called useful idiots. I mean, all these people, they will come to Gaza for 3 days. They couldn't survive it for 3 days, or maybe for 3 minutes. And yet they're the ones gays for Palestine, gays for Gaza. You know, what will happen to those gays for Gaza? I'm not saying anything against gays, but I'm just simply saying, how does it fit to do this protest? Because you hate the new, you hate the light so much that you're willing to make a pact with anybody as long as it helps you extinguish that light. And if it's Jews trying to bring the light to you, you'll be against Jews. If all of a sudden tomorrow Hindus will speak up and say something, you'll be against Hindus or any other group that doesn't agree with a new world order, with a new woke religion. The message to the Jews: correct your minor issues, as we say. Even those small mishaps are interpreted by the world as you're not acting Jewish, you're not living to what we, the world, non-Jews, expect from you. Even non-Jews feel that Jews, you're letting the world down. You're supposed to, okay, I eat pork, I do all this stuff, I go to war, but you, Jew, supposed to be different. You're supposed to be peaceful. You're supposed to be God-fearing. You're supposed to maintain Shabbat. You're supposed to eat kosher, and you don't. What are we supposed to do? So the message for us: don't even make an impression, even if halakha allows something. But if it creates an impression, the world take it against you. Don't do it for the sake of your brethren and ultimately for the sake of the world. And this is what maybe, and the world, just like I said, Egyptians before them will follow the same fate. The time window to understand it is shrinking. In Tanya, we'll talk about the world of Atzilut, where the time and space don't yet exist. Then we'll talk about the world, the light being filtered down to the world of Berea, Jazeera, Asiya, to this world when the light is dimmed in order for us to live and go by that. The light is here. We have to accept it. We have to understand it. We have to think about it. Not just fanatically just take it. We have to think about it. So anybody who goes to the beach next Shabbat can think about, do I really have to play basketball or volleyball on the beach that badly? Can I find a day off on Wednesday and do the same thing? Can I do it on Friday morning before I light the candles later on Shabbat? Is it really that impossible for me to do? Do I really work that hard? Yeah, you do work hard to the point that you have to go, oh, it's a lonely day. I'm going to relax and enjoy it on the beach. And I don't want to eat, this is kosher restaurant, this is non-kosher. I'll prefer to eat non-kosher. Why? Is it so much tastier? Ask yourself those questions. And this is perhaps, maybe in a more condensed way, what you, Mr. Bennett, who I respect very much, could tell the CNN and BBC and Al Jazeera news to say, why is it a conflict? Don't explain so many words why we have a right to defend themselves, why we're democratic, why we have to apologize to explain, and why, and interrupt the interviewer and say, wait a minute, don't just read your questions. I just answer your questions. Do you agree? Let's discuss one question. Let's have a debate. Let's have discussion in an interview. You don't agree with what I'm saying? Let's have your facts. If you feel we're killing people indiscriminately, let's come with us and go and check it. And come with our army, come with the forces and check it out. Or get some facts. But don't just read this question and just skip another one. So Bennett can say it all in a few words. Listen, it's very simple for us, Mr. BBC. I used to be a former prime minister of Israel. My name is Naftali Bennett. I'm a religious guy. You see this keeper? But I'm not only a religious guy, I also grew business. I'm not against technology. I'm not against the modernity. I like modern world. It brings a lot of improvement to the world. But I also observant Jew, and I like the Torah. And I live by the Torah. And according to our Torah, we have a mission. That our mission is to bring the light and decency to the world. The world overall, as United Nations building filled with darkness, has demonstrated. Our mission is to lighten it in a peaceful way, not to force it down the throat, not to invade them with armies and with a sword convert them. That's not our mission. Our mission to live. And that's how we try to live. And yes, we have mishaps, we have mistakes, we do that. As I just mentioned, we do go to the beach, not all of us. Some go to the beach on Shabbat. And even those who do go, no, that's not right. But they say, well, I know it's not right, but I go. But that is our mission. And the world cannot stand it because they want us to say, no, we are not the light. You are the world that is correct and we are wrong. We're such a small minority. How can we possibly be right? We are right because our Torah tells us, do not follow the multitude to do evil. Blessed be those that bless you, and cursed be those that curse you. I want to end this recording, number 97, today on Sunday, June 9th, 2024, 5,784 years from the creation. I want to end this by saying in a positive way, blessed are those that bless you. Shema Israel, Hashem Eloheinu, Hashem Echad. Have a great day. God bless you. Amen.